Hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. I'm your host, Frank Acomb, and joining me in the Hesselson studio this morning during I have so many great sponsors, Tony. During the Steuben County Office for the Aging section of our program, Steuben County Office for the Aging, committed to maximizing quality of life, safety, and independence. In the studio, Tony Pucci. Good morning.
Good morning, Frank. How are you?
Well, good. First of all, congratulations. Today's the release date.
Thank you. Thank you. It's exciting.
So we've had you on a few times in the past on radio and TV. It's the Michael Bishop Mystery Series, which I've been a big fan of since you first introduced me to them. How many is this now?
This is the 10th one.
Wow. Did you ever think you'd get through 10?
No, not at all.
No. When it first started, was it supposed to be kind of a one and done book?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, I just kind of left it open at the end so that if I wanted to pick it up, I could.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that ever since.
What inspires you? Is it almost... I don't want to say work because that sounds negative, but when you're done with this one, you already start thinking about the next one, you put it off, you say, maybe I won't do a next one. How does that work?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. 10 seems like a nice round number.
Right.
maybe I should stop.
I'm not trying to discourage you. Come on.
Maybe I should stop right there. But I do tend to give myself a long break after I finish one of the books because it really is time consuming.
Sure.
And I've committed to once I start writing every day until it's done. And then there's all of that technical stuff.
Sure.
As someone who's self-published, of getting that on Amazon.
Oh yeah.
And doing the ebook, doing the paperback version, and also now recently doing audiobooks.
Oh wow.
So you want to give that a long break. Although I have built in some threads that I could pick up in the next book, I'm really not thinking too much about it for a while.
Sure. How long does it take when you first start to get the idea till the end, till it's published? How long does that take?
It would be about 6 months.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, from beginning to end.
Because you've almost been on a trajectory of one a year almost, right?
I have, since I've retired.
Yeah, very interesting. So for those that don't know, and really it's my job, I should have asked this at first. Tell us about the Michael Bishop series. What is, for those that are unfamiliar with it, what is the Michael Bishop Mystery Series?
Well, when I taught English for 43 years, and I always told my students, write about what you know.
Right.
And what do I know? I knew teaching. And so when I thought about an amateur sleuth, I decided to make him an English teacher.
Yeah.
And that way I could build in a lot of references to literature that I enjoyed teaching over the years and actually use that to build in to the story itself. And so Michael Bishop in those first books was in the classroom a lot, dealing with the students, and then also dealing with, a murder.
Right.
And sort of falling into becoming an amateur sleuth.
Right.
And then it progressed from there. Got to a point where we're thinking, well, how many people in that high school can we kill off?
I was just going to say, it's a fictional school. We want to make that clear. But I think the enrollment would drop significantly.
Yeah. So the fourth book actually is based in Ogunquit, Maine,
right.
Murder on the Marginal Way. We've spent a lot of time up there, and I was familiar with the area. And so I had Michael Bishop go on vacation up to Ogunquit, Maine. And, of course, he bumps into a former student, which happens to me a lot.
Yeah, of course.
And that student ends up, unfortunately, murdered. And he ends up having to solve that mystery. And it sort of ties into book number 10 because... Again, I've gone outside of the school environment, which is upstate New York,
right?
And this one is based in Venice, Italy. Murder on the Grand Canal.
Okay.
And I've been lucky enough to visit Venice twice, and it's an amazing place. Yeah. And I thought, well, if I'm going to, set a novel somewhere else, this would be the place to do it.
Well, and what made you decide to go the travel route? Because didn't you say originally, I think in one of our past interviews, the previous travel edition, if you will, was the most popular sales-wise?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that'll happen again.
Okay. This race neck and neck right now. Is that why you just decided to go travel, maybe change things up a little bit? Or?
Yeah, it was just to change things up. And as I said, you get into almost a rut of saying, well, it's just the school environment, the school environment. I do manage to keep that thread alive.
Good.
Because you can text and you can call.
Yeah.
And so he finds out that there are things going on back at home that are troubling. Sure. And so he's juggling the mystery that's occurring in Venice. And then he's also thinking about what's going on at home.
So you can still have the same cast of characters that we've gotten to know through the years.
That's right.
So that's kind of interesting that it's going to be a travel, because it's been a while since I read the first travel one, and I'm kind of used to, like you said, the school makeup.
Yeah.
Did you find, too, because you mentioned it's in upstate New York, I found that through the years in your books, there's more, maybe I'm wrong about this, but there seems to be more local references through the years. Have you found that to be the case?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at first it was kind of fake names, wasn't it?
Well, yes. Very, very attentive reading on your part. You get an A for that.
Well, thank you.
At first I wanted to be sure that people weren't going to assume, well, this is him, this is Elmira, that sort of thing. So I avoided that at first. And then as I moved along, I thought, well, there's really no harm in bringing in a lot of local references. As a matter of fact, even in this book, which is based in Venice, one of the first activities, he's on a tour group into Venice, and one of their first activities is to visit a glass-blowing factory in Murano, the island of Murano. And I'm thinking, well, you could do that any day of the week right here in Corning.
Exactly.
So there are connections like that.
Do you find when you're not writing a book, is mysteries your favorite genre?
I have been reading a lot of mysteries, which I never did. It was my wife who was the mystery reader. Yeah. And when I retired, she said, I bet you could do this. Yeah. And so that's when I started writing them, and reading them as well.
Yeah. And this is the 10th book, Murder on the Grand Canal. If someone hasn't been a part of the Michael Bishop series, would you recommend, is there a book that they should get into first, or just start right from the beginning?
Well, as we've talked about this before, you could start from the beginning because it gives you then a perspective as the characters grow and develop. Yeah. And when I look back to the first book, sometimes I'm sort of surprised at how far it's come. Yeah. But they are self-contained. Each book is self-contained, and so you could pick up any one of them and read it and have a complete experience. And actually, book 10 would be a good place actually to start. Sure. Because at the beginning, I can tell you that finally Michael Bishop retires.
Yeah, right.
So we get him out of the classroom.
Yeah, oh, good.
And that's when he has time then to go on vacation, and he goes to Venice, Italy. So that you could start with 10. Sure. You could start with number 1. You could start anywhere in between. Although, you do sort of miss some of the connections as character relationships develop. Sure. At the beginning, there is no Marianne, right. Who is a former student of Michael Bishop from the class of '88, and he ends up meeting her again, many years after having taught her, because her daughter is the assistant principal now at the school. Yeah. And that relationship begins to develop. As a matter of fact, she goes with him to Venice, Italy.
Don't give too much away. I was going to ask, but I didn't want to. I will find out along with the viewers. Do you need to reread the books as you start a new one to keep those threads going, or do you think you have it down by now?
No, I reread the previous book
previous
for
one.
sure.
Yeah.
And I do have notes on all the previous books.
Okay.
So I go through because I need to be sure about names, and I need to be sure that I'm consistent and what I say about time frames and ages and that sort of thing.
And I know I ask you this every time, but I'm sure people are curious when they read the book. Are some of these characters from real life?
Well, we were on this tour to Venice, Italy, and you spend a lot of time with this small group of people,
right.
And so there might be some vague echoes
Okay.
Of them, sort of like an amalgam in a way, in some of the characters in the book, but it's not intentional. It's certainly fiction.
Sure.
I think it makes it a little bit more interesting sometimes for people to wonder.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Who might be in there?
Or make up something in their mind that I bet you that's this person, or that's right. I'm sure that happens a lot. Do you find it difficult, being your 10th book, to keep coming up with new, fresh ideas?
Well, that's it. I'm getting to that point.
Yeah.
Someone recently was talking to me about the books, and I said, yeah, this is my 10th one coming out, and he said, aren't you running out of ideas? And I said, well, not yet.
Yeah, right.
And that was part of moving it to Venice. Give it like a fresh start, and I could bring in a lot of new characters. And I could come up with some nice Italian names.
Sure.
Like Domenico Passalacqua.
Yes,
of
course.
Sofia Colabastia.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun to do.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you kind of the quick ones here. Do you have one of the books, of the 10, that's your favorite? Or is it always the newest one? Or are they all your babies? What's...
Well, I would say I tend to go with the most recent one as being my favorite.
How many times when you think you're done with the book that you reread it? When you first get the copy, do you sit down and read it? Or are you done with it by then?
No, I print it out.
Yeah.
I use a 3-hole punch, put it in a binder, and read it, and go over and make corrections, and then ultimately, when I upload it to Amazon, then I can look at a proof copy, and I always find, frustratingly, a few errors here and there.
Yeah, of course.
And try to do the best I can, it's very difficult to proofread your own work.
I'm sure.
I'm very good at proofreading others. I'm sure my students would attest to that. But it's humbling, to see that there are some little errors, but I work hard on that. So I've read it a number of times.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite character through the years because of the development process and seeing almost like character grow like a real person?
Well, one of my favorite characters is Ron Jennings.
Yeah.
He's a good friend to Michael Bishop. He's been at the school all those years. They're good colleagues and friends.
And he's a fun character.
And even though it's a murder mystery, I try to build in some suspense, like whodunit. And actually, I don't really know whodunit myself.
Right, when you start?
When I
really?
start. And because I'm building the possibility, it could be this one, it could be this one, it could be that one.
Sure.
And then finally, I have to make a decision,
right.
And then go from there.
Right.
And actually, that's the fun part when I get toward the end of the book, that Michael Bishop has figured out who's done it.
Yeah.
But now, how does he actually get that person to confess?
Right.
And there's always that dramatic scene at the end, and he usually gets banged up.
I was going to say, where you think he's going to get hurt, it could be the end.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
is very true.
Yeah.
Now, you had mentioned, and before we go, today is the release date. We'll find out where we can buy it. But the audiobook, that's relatively new?
Yes. They weren't doing audiobooks when I first started. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
But they introduced that possibility. And so I've gone through and I've done, I think, 8 of them
Oh, wow.
as audiobooks, and that process has improved.
Okay.
Well, when I did the first audiobook, there were 6 voices. It's artificial intelligence.
Oh, okay, that's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
And there were 6 voices, and I picked one, and then you kind of listen to it, and you're watching it on the screen, and the cursor's moving. And I think I figured out, why they call it a cursor, because you see mistakes.
I'm sure.
You hear them.
And then you
hear them, and then you can see them.
And then, so that's interesting. And that's all. So AI is obviously getting a lot better.
Yes.
So I'm sure it's a much easier process.
Yes. Well, from the 8 voices, they've gone to 25 voices or something. I've stuck with the same lady. We've become sort of friends. And but she's gotten smarter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
oh, yeah. Isn't that interesting?
She used to make a lot of pronunciation mistakes.
Yeah.
And I'd have to stop and try to figure out how to make her say it the right way.
Interesting.
Well, she's getting better at that.
Yeah. You're doing the work for them. You made it. You made AI better.
That's right.
Bezos and all those other guys, thank you, I'm sure. Before we go, today is the release day, Murder on the Grand Canal, a Michael Bishop Mystery Series book. Where can people buy it? Are you going to have book signings like in the past?
Well, the most obvious place to buy it is on Amazon, where people have already pre-ordered it, and so their copies just appeared on their devices this morning.
Okay.
Now, today's the first day to order the paperback, and that's true for me, too. I don't have a copy to show you.
I was so disappointed.
But, Amazon would be the primary place. And then, obviously, the audiobook will come later for Book 10. The books are also going to be available at Millport Landing.
Okay.
I have all my books, signed copies of all my books there. But again, it'll be a little while before I get the copies to bring over. We were recently in Ogunquit again, and that Murder on the Marginal Way is now for sale at Book Tenders, which is on Route 1 in York, Maine. So if you're up that way this summer,
interesting.
You can find one of my books there.
Well, there you go. Tony Pucci has been our guest. I can't wait to do this again in about a year.
Thank you.
All right. Congratulations.
I appreciate it.
All
Thank you
right.
very
We'll
much.
be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.